Well, good morning, everybody. Sunday, the 24th of September, and it's a pretty amazing day here in Les Sables d'Olonne, that's for sure. A complete blue sky, beautiful, nice, gentle breeze, and mild temperatures as well. So a little bit of summer carry on. Anyway, everything goes wrong at the last minute here. It's like running this thing is like sailing a boat around the world sometimes. I come into work to get the internet and stuff, and then about 7 minutes ago, the internet went down and I can't log on. So I'm now working on the phone, and then I can't ring Jane to see if it's all happening and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we're here. So hopefully you're seeing this and hearing it. Everything's pretty stable in the fleet. And the good news is we got a message from, or a tweet from Penduic, and it was first squalls at about 47 knots. So at least they're starting to use the tweets, and they could do 4 a day if they wanted to, but we're happy with 1 a day. At least we know a little bit about what's going on. And temperatures a bit of a discussion point. Some of the boats getting quite hot, around 30 degrees water temperature, around 29 degrees. And Helsinki was happy to see the rain. At some point last night, they may have actually slowed down quite slow because they had a message. But now they're certainly back on track. And everyone seems pretty happy. Godspeed's underway, which is really cool. The word here is the Transat, which was supposed to be starting today, has been postponed because there's some heavy winds forecast off Cape Finisterre at the other side of the Bay of Biscay. So I think they're getting away on Monday or something. But anyway, they'll decide that this morning. In fact, they probably already did, and I haven't seen it. So anyway, everyone's pretty happy. So let's go straight to it. And there's the interesting point here is, that's good. The interesting point here is we've got the widescreen back and it's working. So I might be able to show you the leaderboard. And if we can, I'll just see here how we go. We've got everyone on the, excuse me, everyone on the screen except for Godspeed, because way back, and there's about 1,000-mile split between Explorer, who's technically last if you knock out Godspeed, and Penduic right up the front. So that's 1,000 miles, and we're 2 weeks into it, which is a very interesting situation, I suppose. So certainly the guys at the back of the fleet have had a bit of a slow start. They've been hooked up in this sort of quiet weather and holes they keep falling into. And that's caused a bit of the split as well. But hopefully now they're getting into the trades, they'll catch up a bit. And because you can see here, before we get into the individual thing, this is the northeasterly trades, and there's still a bit of a gradient there going all the way through, right down to into the doldrums. And that's, Explorer's still in a hole in the lee of the Canaries there. I'm just pushing this down to, sorry about that, to get it a bit more down so we can see the actual doldrums a bit and see what's happening. There's some interesting stuff going on. The northeast trades are actually following Penduic down, which is kind of cool. And as we saw yesterday, maybe the southeasterly trades here are actually starting to come up to meet the northeasterly. So they may get a very interesting ride. They may short circuit this whole doldrums thing. They're still going to have storms and squalls, but we'll look at that in a minute. We're going to go right to the back of the fleet and see what Godspeed's up to. They're certainly very excited to be underway, and they seem to be making pretty good time. They've obviously got that big kite of theirs up. So right now she's doing 6.7 knots. Excuse me. Coming 14th line on us, 14th IRC and 5th in Adventure Cask. Plain and simple, the last boat in the fleet. We'll assess the reality of their penalty situation tomorrow, and so we should be able to issue an official decision on that, what happens. But the reality is it's highly unlikely, in my opinion, that they will decide to give them any other time penalty, because the penalty was more or less served by getting their boom fixed in port. It took them about 3 days nearly. So anyway, we'll see about that. But they're on their way, and it looks like they're going to get a reasonable shift there on the breeze. If we jump forward a day, you can see the breeze is still there. If we jump forward a little bit more, it starts to go a bit soft, but they should be able to make sort of 5-6 knots, which is going to be 150 160 mile days anyway. So they'll start keeping up, but they might not catch up yet. Okay, back to the what we're calling is probably now it should be the middle fleet, but it's still the back end. And whilst yesterday Explorer was seen to be sailing at about 7.8 knots for a while, she's now back to 3.1 knot, which is incredibly exciting. So not going anywhere fast. She was alongside White Shadow there for a while, who had been slowly catching up. But in the last 24 hours, or the last hours overnight, she kept sailing while Explorer stopped. So she's doing 7.6 at the moment, 143 mile day, and Explorer did 110 mile day. So she's knocked out another 30 miles. So that's pretty depressing for Explorer. Anyway, Evrika back on track, still holding her own with White Shadow, and I'm pretty certain that they were actually on top of each other there for a while. They would have probably, I'm expecting to see that come up in the tweets. You can see here on their track there was a crossover, and they were literally on top of each other on this tracker. So I reckon they would have got sight of each other as they went across, which is fun for them. And Evrika should be a little bit faster, and she is. She's a Swan 65, of course. And White Shadow another 57, sloop or cutter rig, one mast. So they're having a bit of fun there. And Evrika knocked up 118 miles in the last 24 hours. So still not as much as White Shadow, but at least they're having some fun. And Stern is finally cracking on there. Now not the tail ender. She's doing 6.8 knots, did 135 nautical miles in the day. So they're all moving pretty much together to a degree. But Explorer, yes, slowly but surely, steadily moving a little bit slower than the others. And okay, so now we should no, I'll look at the weather when I've gone through the next ones, see how that's going. So Galana with Secure, 8.4 knots, and doing really well. She's about 240 miles now in front of Explorer, which is amazing. That's just been in a few days, so 4 days or something. She's cleaned out. So their crew is working really hard. Did 196 nautical mile day. They repaired their biggest asymmetric kite, and they're probably running that as we speak. So 8.4 knots. They like this sort of stuff. In fact, let's have a look at the sea state. I'm interested. It's probably about 3 meters. Yeah, it's still 3 meters or so there. So they're really rollicking along. But they throw their boat around like as if it's a dinghy. The Finns are excellent sailors. They've been training on this boat extensively, sailing-wise, for like nearly 3 years as a team. So they know it inside out and back to front. They're all crammed on the boat like sardines in a tin. There's 12 of them on the boat, so there's no use sitting down below and relaxing and things like that. They just want to sail, and I think it's starting to be very obvious. Just for me anyway. I can imagine them all just going nuts on this. So that's kind of cool. Then over here, Jean on Triana, 7.5 knots, 189 nautical mile day. They're really hooting along as well. They've got some serious pros on board as well as some enthusiastic amateurs. No power, of course, so they're in the dark. When I say no power, they're running low on electrical energy, or battery capacity. So, but all's well. They could sail dark ship as long as we've got comms and stuff. We're happy. But in the just to give that an explanation, in the Golden Globe race, I'm just getting rid of that. In the Golden Globe race, a couple of times there's been the situation where all power is lost on one of the boats, and you can actually still easily sail around the world without any power at all. You just go dark ship and keep an eye out for shipping and things like that. So it's not the end of the world. They are sailboats, so they're doing pretty well, on a par. But as you can see, Galana with Secure did 196 miles, and Triana also did 189 miles, 90 miles. So they're, doing pretty well, both of them, hooting along. And because of that, I would say to a degree, they're taking time out on Outlaw. Outlaw at the moment is doing 7.8 and did 188 nautical mile day, but there's no doubt that both Triana and Galana with Secure have actually closed the gap onto Outlaw. So she's within striking distance. And anyway, Outlaw's 7th on line honours, 8th in IRC, and 2nd in adventure class. So that's kind of interesting. Now that's on IRC adventure class, of course. Okay, so moving right along, here we go for Neptune. 8.6 knots, 199 nautical miles a day. Pulled a little bit away from the others behind, and they've been in an interesting position. But I'm surprised to see them still alter course now, and they're obviously on port tack, with an asymmetric or something. But heading into the, really close into the coast. It's not usually where you want to be to a degree with the doldrums. We've discussed that before, but that's fine. When I saw them heading out here to the west, I thought, oh, that's a good move, cut through the verdes and get over here somewhere. But it's so variable that, it's really the luck of the draw. So even though there's suggestions on the correct route, you never really know till you get there. They're 6th in line on us, 5th IRC and 4th in flyer class. Then we've got very close connection with L'Esprit Equip, right alongside Mindelo there in the Cape Verdes, coming very close. They'd be happy to see land. It proves their navigation again. It's if you're on Celestial for a long time, and I don't know what the clouds have been like here. Let's just have a look what the cloud cover's like. Yeah, it's been pretty good. So I'd say that their fixes have been pretty reasonable. And anyway, they came very close. So doing 8.4 knots. 199 mile day as well, so shows up that Galana and Triana are doing pretty well. They're keeping up with these guys because the wind gradient seems constant over this area. So that's interesting as well. If I come back to the wind, we'll just do a distance here to see how things are going. Let's say for the Spirit Equip alongside Spirit of Helsinki, 213 miles, you could say, or 220 miles behind, still within striking distance for sure. And the same for, if I pull it back to Maiden, she's effectively 190 miles behind Maiden. And same with Translated. So both boats, Neptune and Spirit Equip are still in the hunt. They haven't been left behind. They're still in a group. That's not a bad sort of grouping, and everything's going to be determined on what happens through the doldrums, on whether, who comes out of it looking good and bad. That's how it's going to work. So behind Penjuic, Spirit Equip is for nearly 400 miles behind. That's a couple of days. So, and if we pull this forward to Spirit of Helsinki, 176 miles behind, 1 day behind. Same for Maiden and same for Translated. So being a day behind after 2 weeks on a boat that's, rating a little bit differently, it's not too embarrassing. Anyway, let's just walk through them and see. Let's get rid of that, see where everyone stands on the leaderboard. I need to pull this back a bit. Helsinki 8.3, 143 nautical mile day, slowing down a bit because it's so warm there now. They're into the 30s and stuff. You will be getting the thunderstorms. There'll be big thunderheads forming late in the afternoon. They usually clear out during the night, except for the fact you get these big squall areas. So that's pretty obvious, and they will be affected now. They'll definitely be in that zone. So 2nd in line honours, 4th in IRC, and 1st in Sayula class. So there's quite a distance between Spirit of Helsinki and Explorer way down the back. It's probably a couple of thousand miles. Anyway, that's life. So Penjuic, can't quite see it there. Penjuic is 1st in line honours, 2nd in IRC, and 2nd in flyer class. So that's pretty cool. Maiden, doing 8.1 knots, 138 mile days. So they're probably in the zone now. It's getting super hot and squalls because they've got a bit of breeze there, but only 138 miles. That means they've slowed down at some point when these squalls may have just dropped off, because once a squall goes through, it sort of sucks the wind with it. So once the squall flows over, there's very little wind behind it, and you slow down and you're actually looking for the next squall and try and head towards it. It's how it works in the doldrums. It's kind of weird. It's as if there's a constant level of wind or air. There's only so much there. So when the thunderstorms come along, they suck it all into the thunderstorm, drive it around in a circular motion, and you hook into it the right way, and you can surf along the edge and get spat out one side and head for the next one. But once they go, the wind drops off to nothing, or it can do. It drops down substantially. So I'd say that's what's been happening. Yeah, same with Translated. It's clear that 142 nautical mile day, and they're only doing 7.6 knots now, then they're hooked up in the start of the doldrums, even though it's showing as if it's a northeasterly trade there. So 1st in IRC, pretty cool. 3rd in line honours, very cool. And 1st in flyer class, very impressive. Still sailing like crazy. So, and look at this, there's not a big gap there on what's happening here. If I pick this as the trades there and pick them, they're still moving 330 miles. That's a very simple zone of total conflict with the intertropical convergence zone, doldrums, call it what you like. So that could be good for Penjuic. She's got a jump at the moment. If she can push through this, and then it changes behind her, that could be very good for Marie and the crew on board. So let's just scan back now and see what it looks like going forward. I think it's that's a little bit too big here. Okay, so I'm just going to now punch this through. Every time I hit it, it's 1 hour. There goes an hour, 2, 3, 4. So we're in the afternoon. Wow, it's the you can see here the southeasterlies are coming up. I mean, sure, it's going to be headwinds, but at least there's a breeze, and it blows a lot of the squalls away with it. And she's right in Penduic is right in the perfect position there. So this is coming up to the next 24 hours. So there we go through. Wow, that's incredible. So what you're going to see happen in the next 24 hours is Penduic will reach down. They're going to have a headwind, but she quite literally, I'm not sure which way she'll go because she's quite close over here. She could go left or right, could go port or starboard. We'll have to wait and see what they're thinking. Big, powerful boat like this that's heavy, they may decide that they want to push through the push through the systems here in the Atlantic. Whereas you get a boat like Maiden, that's a bit of a flyer. She's really designed to go fast with favourable wind direction. So she'll go and in fact, the skipper's already mentioned that she's thinking going trade wind route. So, but Penduic, he's a pretty powerful boat, and they may decide their best option is to head through the middle, but it may be too early to do that because there's still a bit of a southeasterly slant on that. And so if you go on starboard tack, you're going to be going direct to the east. So I'm not sure it's going to be. I have no idea what they're going to choose. But one thing's for sure, there is a real opportunity here because of this airflow, this pressure gradient that's going right through where the doldrums are supposed to be. I don't know how long it's going to stay there. Helsinki's looking pretty good with that as well. I'm pushing it through now to the second day. Ooh, starting to open up again. Ooh, a big one to the left. And how far can they get? 300 miles. She's going to get it. Okay, Penduic will probably get a push, but then it goes light. Light from the southeast, but that's cool. She'll stay on port tack and head down probably and take it down here. So still not looking too bad. So that's nearly 2 days ahead on the 26th. Helsinki's so. The others are now starting to open up. So this is the 26th, 27. So by the time those that are behind keep coming, I think they're going to get a little bit more of an impact. You can see this is 4, 5, 6, 7 in 3 days' time. So anyway, there's a fair bit of movement there. Behind the fleet here, still constant northeasterlies. So that's going to be an easy ride for the mid-fleet Explorer, these guys, and also for Galana with Secure. They're going to ride it all the way down, and then in 3 days' time, they'll be into the edge of the doldrums and trying to work out what's going on. But the forecast could change by then. While I'm here, I'm just going to check back here now. I just want to check that we're still holding. So that's cool. So that means I should be able to bring the leaderboard up and show you what's going on. Now, I have to go back and check this. Yes, okay, we got it. I've been trying to nut that out for a while. And so now I'm back here. Okay, so we can finally give you a rundown on the leaderboard with the colours. We're still trying to get the boat name labels beside the boats on the tracker that come up automatically when there's room to put the label beside it. So hopefully we can do something this week on that. Okay, so this is for line honours, and I think everyone's pretty clear on, top to bottom on line honours. We don't need to talk about that much, other than the fact that this is showing, it's pretty straightforward. So it's racked up, as you saw, Penduic, Spirit Helsinki, translated, Neptune, Outlaw, Galana with Secure, White Shadow, and right down the bottom is Explorer with Godspeed behind. Now, the ETAs is the interesting one. ETA for Explorer, for instance, right now is showing 7th of November, 2 days after the start. Godspeed's 17th of December, way behind the start, but they will pick up speed, hopefully, and that'll get closer. If we look at Galana with Secure, she's currently showing 30th of October. That's just 5 days ahead, and she's been making really good average speeds, and she'll make better average speeds even going forward. So I'm starting to feel comfortable with the timelines. I think Galana will probably end up being 10 days or so, 8, 9, 10 days before the restart on the 5th of October. And I would hopefully expect to see Explorer, for instance, the tail ender. I'd hopefully expect to see her at least a week before the restart. and that's exactly when they're due to be coming off the slip, having been on the slip for 2 days, so they better hurry up. So the ETA is the interesting thing to point there. Now, if you come at the top of the leaderboard here, you can see the next one is IRC rankings, and that's what we want to see. So translated, currently in first position. Based on that, she's got 2,600 nautical miles distance sailed, and currently got an elapsed time of 38 days and 2 hours and 52 minutes, or 25 minutes. So finish time set on the 18th of October, 15th of October, so it goes. But anyway, you can see the corrected elapsed time there. So correct elapsed time for translated 42 days. 42 days for Penjuic. There's minutes and hours there. And so this is where you read it. I'm not going to read everything out, but you can see the rankings in IRC. The translated Penjuic, Maiden, Spirit of Helsinki, Neptune, the Spirit Equipped, Triana. So it goes down the line. So that's what you need to do. And these numbers alongside the boat, Neptune, for instance, has an IRC rating of 1.135. And Galana with Secure has a rating of 1.076. So you can do the numbers on that. And if you want to know how it all works and how they get the certificates, just simply Google IRC rating certificate, and you'll see all sorts of explanations come up. And even if you do it on YouTube, measuring IRC rating certificate, you can get all sorts of information off YouTube as well on how the certificate is derived and how it relates to a handicapping system on the course. And that's the coveted prize, because any one of the fleet, any one of the 14 boats could win on IRC. And usually it favors the smaller boats in some regattas, but because this is around the world and there's so many varied conditions, it's not as easy to pick. So you can, put it down to the, and because the luck of the draw, with the weather and everything, it's so long, 27,000 miles, it usually balances out as well. So the obvious thing in handicapping a sailing event like this, when it's so long and demanding, it actually shows pretty clearly which crew is working the hardest and sailing the best, and also maybe how well they've optimized their rating certificate, but that's another story. So that's about it now. I think we've pretty much covered it. I'm going to come back and look at the questions on the side here. It's a Sunday, so there's no rush. I'm actually going to do the question and answers. If you're still watching after this, I'm going to do the question and answers on the sheet. I couldn't do it yesterday. Yes, I ran out of battery and I couldn't turn it off, so it went on forever. But anyway, long story. So good day from Brisbane. Thanks, Marcel. Paul, morning, Plymouth. Listening from Antigua. Ooh, all the 580s will be over there soon. See you. Lutz is coming over to manage that. Hazel. Any photo from Outlaw? The photos come in on a set day, and there have been a couple last week, and there'll be more this week. And the photo day for Outlaw is Tuesdays. So on Tuesdays, Outlaw will send some more pictures for sure. Kaylee, Don, do you and Jane ever get a day off? Or sometimes. But anyway, thanks, Kylie. Good morning from Plymouth. Actually, the funny part is I usually try and do the weekends from home rather than have to come in the office, but the internet there's all stuffed up as well. So, Rathlin, Velican, Northern Ireland here, loving this race. Good luck, thanks. Not received any this week. Ocean Globe race, not received any this week. Oh, that must be from, that's about Outlaw. So we didn't get any photos from Outlaw. That's Jane in there. Simon Jackson, come on, translated. Oh, she's doing pretty well. Don, so the maths on IRC. Oh, yeah, sure. You really, you know what's going on. I just don't want to go there. IRC and handicapping for me is like double Dutch. But I'm sure, in fact, we'll get, there's bigger powers than me on this event, and we will organise. In fact, I had a bit of a quick chat with Brian this morning talking about, we put that post up. I finished here now. I don't think you can see me. We put that post up from the translated post. Talking about the routing systems and so on. With God, I've forgotten his name again already. I go blank on this. Sorry. So we will have some sessions, and I'll get someone who's an IRC expert, and we'll get some diagrams, and we'll have a session to explain how it works for the non-sailors, because I know for a fact we've got a lot of non-sailors watching the OGR, and that's a complication they probably don't want to know about. They want to see the boats moving and maybe the classes, who's winning in the classes and stuff, because IRC gets quite complicated, and we've complicated the issue even more by allowing two types of certificates to race against each other, which you don't normally do. But that's our preference, to keep it, with an adventure theme and not too complicated. We're not the America's Cup, but it is important for the sailors even, and that may change in 2027. Remembering this is the first edition of the Ocean Globe race, and there's a growing interest from sailors in what's going on. So I think 27 is going to be very interesting indeed. Morning from the Solent, enjoying the race so far. What's the plan for any boats that don't make it by the 5th of November? Okay, so, and I think that's a question in the Q&A that I'm going to do in a minute. They're supposed to be there within 4 hours of the start, I think it is, and then they have to stay for at least 3 days and carry on, but the clock starts. So the first thing is, if they arrive late, the clock will still be going, and we can be flexible on the issue of how we treat that if someone's late, as long as we think the boat's in good condition and the crew are in good condition, and they have a realistic expectation, even if they don't get away until a week after the start. We would still let them go if there were reasons for them being late to the start. So one boat's late to the start by 2 days, and another boat's late to the start by 2 days. If the reason for this boat that's late by 2 days still means they're in good condition and we believe they can keep up with what's going on and this, that, and other, would let them continue. Okay. But if the other one, still 2 days late, if we believe there were mitigating situations or other reasons why they're late, and whatever that may be, we could make the decision we won't let them go. We'd say, sorry, you're out, bang. So every situation is treated differently, and every situation is considered with the overriding principle of in the spirit of the OGR. So we try to be fair and reasonable, and decisions that we make also have to pass the pub test. And by that, it means you can say, oh, someone did this, and this is what we're going to do. If the boys in the pub sitting around having a beer say, yeah, that sounds about right, boom, rather than get hooked up on technicalities where we say, oh, we've done this, and technically in the rule it says we've got to do that, but it just doesn't seem right. We're quite likely to say, well, it's got to pass the pub test as well. It's got to be fair and reasonable, because the OGR, more so than the America's Cup or anything like that, is an adventure, and it's an event, and it's a race, but we treat some things a little bit differently. Anyway, that's enough of that, and in about 15 minutes I'll be up again with the answers to all the questions that we've got there, and thanks for following on this, and we'll see you tomorrow. See you later.